Hello, who's this? Hello,
It's me.
who's me?
Oh, Brian.
Oh, what's up, Brian? You scared me, man. I'm like, who the heck is Take Six?
Oh, oh.
All right, that's cool. Hey, do me a favor, send a couple texts out if you had anybody in class in your phone.
All right.
I was like, whoa, who is this? Hey, Brian. Brian,
Yeah.
when Mr. Lewis gets on here, tell him I stepped away from the computer. I'll be right back. I just got to get my
Oh,
son.
all right. Mr. Lewis.
Yes, Brian, what's up, bud?
Mr. Cox said to tell you that he went out to get his son.
Oh, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
How are you
you're
doing?
welcome. Good.
Excellent, excellent. How did you finish up school with the rest of your classes?
Pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. I appreciate, and so does Dr. Cox, you hopping on these calls all the time. I hope you got something out of it.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Any plans for the summer?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, just excited to be done with school, I bet.
Yeah.
I think we all are, man. It's been a little hard finishing up this way. It's not
Yeah, it
normal.
is. And what about you? Do you have any plans this summer?
We're gonna go to the beach
Oh.
for a couple weeks.
Uh huh.
We usually go down to there's this town just down the shore called Manasquan,
Uh huh.
and it's in Jersey. It's on the
Oh.
Jersey shore. So we usually go there for like a couple weeks to just hang out and everything. So that because of COVID. So,
Oh.
but the
Yeah.
beach is good.
Yeah. My plans got canceled too.
Oh, where were you going?
I was gonna go to Guatemala.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was gonna see my family over there, but since the COVID-19, my parents told me I was going this year again, but since of COVID-19, I wasn't able to go.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
maybe it's something you can do over winter break or spring break next year. You know, once we get a vaccine and everything gets a little
Yeah,
more normal. Do you have a lot of family over there?
yeah, I have a lot of family over there.
Cool. Now, do you go there a lot?
The last time I went
Okay.
was around
What, in the
2 years ago.
night? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool. What's up, Dr. Cox?
Hey, what's up, man? Trying to get some kids in here. Been sleeping.
Yeah.
Yesterday one kid showed up, so I think we might be. I don't know. Some people may be like done already.
Flaring. All right, everybody's on the way out. Well, Brian, give me a heads up that you had stepped off for a sec. So,
Yeah,
and then we were just chatting.
Ben is sleeping, so I'm gonna let him sleep where he is.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's the boat you don't rock.
Yeah, man.
A sleeping baby. And you know what? Some of the hardest decisions as a parent is when they fall asleep at an off hour, and you're like, oh, do we wake them up and risk them not going back to sleep or this and that, or wake them up and it's going to be a tantrum, and you know that it's going to mess up the sleep at night, and you sit there and you debate it for like a half hour, and no matter what you decide, you're going to be wrong. You know?
Yeah. Yep. It's craziness, man, but it's all good, baby. This is it.
Yeah. That lure looks cool as heck, right?
Dude, yeah, man. You know, but a lot of times those guys, they go to stock ponds. and
Yeah.
they fish them there.
To
I mean, it
promote
probably works, but the marketing is insane. It makes you like lose your mind and be like, oh man, this is like God's gift to Earth, you know?
Well, and it's really good design, the resemblance wise, and it makes sense too, you know, because they can't eat the bigger ones.
Right.
I picked it up. It was like $7 for 5 of them.
Oh, dude, that's
We were fishing.
no
Yeah,
right.
it's worth it. Carly and I were fishing yesterday. I lost a lure in the trees, and then a bunch of my probably like 10 soft baits, just from reusing them, you know,
Yeah.
and rehooking them. We finally had to say goodbye to those, and then she hooked a bluegill from the eye, which she felt bad about. I'm like, don't worry, baby, you'll be okay.
Those things are like so resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a little costly. Maybe it costs you about $150. Sorry. The place I was telling you about, Big Brown Trout, is good. You know, basically it's like $8 per bass that you catch, and you have to keep them. You can't throw them back. But I mean, when I go there, I only fish for like a half an hour or 45 minutes because you just catch fish. You just fish Senkos, like little plastic worms, and you just catch them nonstop. So a lot of times, if people want to catch bass and they've never caught bass before, I take them there.
Yeah, and so, but they don't let you throw them back.
Nope. They stock them so that literally it's like, I mean, I don't even know how many are in there. You know.
Interesting.
So.
Who's it's your brother today, right? Who's gonna round it out?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. I told him just wait a sec before he joins. See if we get a couple more kids on here, but looking pretty slim right
Yeah, I
now.
wish I was able to hop on Tuesday.
Nah, it's all good.
Um, the Schoology is pretty cool.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Angelina, you saved the day. You making me look good in front of my brother.
Right.
Listen, I owe you. Next year, hopefully, you know, you need it whenever you need a recommendation letter, save my email because you've been like the part of the 1% being on just about every class.
You're welcome.
I'm messaging the kids from their attendance.
Yep. Shit. Excuse my language. I'll be right back.
Take your time. Take your time. I don't know what noises these are that I'm getting on my phone or computer. Oh, I didn't think Dr. Cox's dog was going to move, but it finally just did. Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's
He's alive. Nick. What's up, bud?
There we go. There we go. There we go. All right, guys. Let's get right to it. We're running a little late. That's my fault. But I just want to take the time to introduce my older brother, Cameron Cox, president of the Plainfield Board of Education. I won't give away his whole resume, but I'm excited to have him on here and for you guys to hear his story. This is probably the coolest because it's my brother. We grew up together. We got we have a lot of history and a lot of stories and stuff like that that you guys won't hear. But it's cool because I think this is the first time. And I think maybe one other time we did something where I had my brother in my class, but this is cool. You guys will hear his story. Every class I usually start with saying like, I'm very purposeful about who I surround myself. Obviously, for most of my life, I had no choice. But, I think the kudos that I will give my brother is that he always look out for me. He always literally like gone to his wits end to protect me, to promote me, and to really make sure that I was doing well and like mentor me. A lot of times, like I was in financial jams, and he's like, "Yo, let's get the finances together." Just different personal things where he sit me down and say, "Hey, this X, this is Y. Let's move in this fashion." You know what I mean? And a lot of times, like I looked at his life, good, bad, or indifferent, and I was like, all right, how can I learn from that and move forward? So, I consider myself to be successful, but I always say like my success is attributed to the people that are around me. And, my brother has always been there for me. And, I just want to publicly thank him for one, doing the call and just always being there for me. So, my expectations, guys, I know we're light right now. Hopefully we get a few more in here. My expectations that you listen to his story. This is our last one. And that you either write down a question or a takeaway, just give it to him at the end. And then, for my brother Cameron, what we're looking for is for you to start with high school. If you want to share stuff before high school, that's cool. Where you went to college and what's your life story? Nothing fluff. These kids have heard some really, really cool stories, and not just the good stuff. You know what I mean? They've heard ups, they've heard downs, and really what I think Mr. Lewis and I are trying to identify is how you persisted when things got tough. You know what I mean? Because everyone's story isn't like, oh, I did X and then now I'm at Z. Like that's not life. You know what I mean? It's not reality. So, without further ado, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm just gonna get Ben a bottle, and then you can start. Oh, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry, hold on. If you click the red thing, boom. Perfect.
I know how to work it. This is the virtual space. We're all doing it. I forgot I didn't do it. How long do I have? Because what I don't want to do is that'll determine that way I can watch the clock, how in depth I get into certain things.
If you could, if I think it'd be cool if you go to about 12:30. If you run short, that's fine. But if you go to usually we've been going to 12:30, and after that, we open up and have a little bit of dialogue and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yep.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me for that. I am very much at work right now. So, Cameron Cox, born and raised Plainfield, New Jersey, member of the Plainfield High School class of 2000. There was a lot of hoopla surrounding that class, just because it was supposed to be the kickoff of the new millennium, high expectations, didn't really know, there was this idea because of the notion of what we used computers for at the time, that because they weren't programmed to go past 1, 9, anything, that when it got to 2000, the world was going to blow up. Clearly that didn't happen. Humanity is naturally resilient, and we got past that. Graduated class of 2000, went on to Rutgers University. Part and partial because Rutgers University is what I knew. My father went there, my grandmother went there, my aunt went there, my uncle went there. It was very much a family place. My father worked there for years, and I very much knew it was a great institution of higher learning. Got into multiple other locations. In hindsight, to spread my wings, I probably should have went somewhere other than Rutgers, but I'm thankful for everything that I've learned at Rutgers University. Graduated from Rutgers University. At the time I graduated, I was also working full-time as the director of membership for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Union County, Plainfield Clubhouse. The clubhouse was very new at that point. I'm sorry, I gotta backtrack. Prior to graduation, a mentor of mine was the unit commander for an undercover unit that worked for U.S. Customs out of Newark Airport. This unit was the second most touted unit when it came to seizing unclaimed and illegal currency by either individuals traveling, drug traffickers, and otherwise. Because of the currency that they would seize, they would also seize drugs and contraband and other things. And I met this mentor when I was in Rutgers Upward Bound as a freshman, I believe. Excuse me, I'm getting a little old. And she did a presentation similar to this, but in person, about what she did. And she had billboards, science project billboards, the trifold ones, 3 or 4 of them that just showed where they found illegal contraband, what type of contraband they found, how much money they found, how often they find people for trying to sneak things in and out of the country. And for me, it was like, wait, you could be a cop and do all this cool stuff, and you don't have to be the stuff you see on TV. I immediately wanted to be a customs inspector. While I was in college, I applied to an internship program my freshman year. Had I stayed in the program, I would have, my senior year in college, I would have. I'm sorry. My spring semester, my junior year in college, would have been an internship. Fall semester, where I would have gotten college credits. Fall semester of my senior year would have been a paid internship where they would have paid me. Believe it or not, even back then, they would have paid me $40,000 for that semester.
Wow.
And then the second semester would have been, yeah, exactly. The second semester, the spring semester of my senior year, would have been a hybrid of credit and partial payment internship. I was raring to go. I got accepted, extensive background check. I'm like, and prior to that, I was a U.S. Customs Explorer, which is like the lead up to becoming, like, you're interested in being a customs inspector, but you know, it's like the Cub Scouts, but for law enforcement.
Right.
I was ready to go. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. However, I was also in college during 9/11. I can remember that morning like it was yesterday.
Wow.
Being real raw and honest, I was enjoying myself in the company of someone, and I was like, "Up, time to get up, go to class." Missed the first class, not gonna lie, and everybody was like yelling out the apartment window because it was an on-campus apartment complex. Like, where you going? Like, I'm about to get on this G bus, go to Douglas, go to my class. Boo, boo, boo. They like, nah, ain't no class. What are you talking about? Rutgers don't cancel class for nothing. Nah, plane flew into the World Trade Center. They don't know what's going on. Cancel class. Said absolutely not possible. Like, I was like, all right. I had a car on campus. I was fortunate enough. Again, Rutgers was all I knew, so I was very well connected at the university. So I had a car on campus when everybody else my age, my grade, did not. I hop in my car. I drive to College Ave campus, go to Eastern Ave Apartments that had an observatory, because on a clear day from the observatory and the telescopes, you could see New York City skyline. So I get there, me and my roommate, who's also from Plainfield, we literally are watching the tower burn. And it's small, but you can see it. And so we're watching. And then all of a sudden, you see a little blip, because it's, we're talking about, 60, 80 miles away. You see a little blip, and you see, boom, another ball of fire. And we literally watched the second plane fly into the World Trade Center. Not to get into 9/11, I know this age group was born in the wake of 9/11, so I don't want to really get stuck in the minutia of what that meant, because I know what it meant to me because of my age. It may not mean as much for you guys, but that changed everything. Almost instantaneously, there was no longer a Department of U.S. Customs and Inspections. 9-10 months later, President Bush, the young one, created the Department of Homeland Security and rebranded the whole entire federal law enforcement umbrella. Everything fell under a majority of things other than the CIA and NSA fell under Homeland Security, and became a division under that department as opposed to its own standalone department. It almost eliminated my program that I was in, but they said, hey, we already in this process. You can stay. The problem is we can't guarantee you'll be at Newark, right? So you're from Jersey. Newark is right there. You may come here to Newark, and then 6 months later, we may send you to Arizona. We may send you to Maine. We may send you to El Paso, Texas. We don't know what's going to happen. And for me, I'm so community oriented. As I get older now, I want to expand my horizons and be other places and do other things. But for me, at that age, at 19, 20 years old, I couldn't conceptualize leaving my foundation unprompted. It's one thing to go on vacation, but when somebody tells you you have to pick up and move for 6 months to a year to a completely different location, mentally, I wasn't prepared to do that. In hindsight, I wish I would have, because I would have seen so much more of life and what it has to offer. Fast forward to graduation, I'm working full time because I kind of counted on the idea of having money while I was finishing up college. I'm sorry, I actually left college for a year. I had a illness that kind of affected my ability to be able to be physically in school. So that's when I started working full time. Then I went, I can't let this guy I'm 5 years older than him. I can't let him get his bachelor's degree before me. Like, what kind of big brother would I be if I didn't persevere through the adversity that took me away from college for a year and finish up strong? And so it was funny because we were in school at the same time for a semester. And it was like, I had forgot the beauties of the dining hall. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I had night class, I would call him like, I don't care what class you have. I'm hungry. Come swipe me into the dining hall. I need to eat. And we did that for a whole semester, and it was, I think, a beautiful bonding experience because it gave us opportunities to, it's one thing when you're 15, your younger brother's 10, you're not on the same wavelength. As much as you try to be, you're not on the same. You can't. The age doesn't allow you to. But regardless of the age difference, when you're both still undergraduate students experiencing everything that is encompassed in that undergraduate experience, you almost like bridge the age gap temporarily. And so for a whole semester, we were allowed to break bread every Tuesday and Thursday when I would come on campus. Benji, you would come on campus and we would eat. And so I graduate. I literally, one of the most adverse semesters of my career, I'm working full time. My first child was born, and I'm finishing up undergrad. And I had the best GPA that I ever had in undergrad. Not in graduate school, but in undergrad. I think I finished that semester with like a 3.95. Like I smoked everything undergrad that year. And so moving on from that, I graduate. I'm still working at the Boys and Girls Club, but I want much more. Like, I don't want to just be, as much as I love community involvement and being able to work with the kids of Plainfield, I didn't want to be just some guy that was punching some numbers, doing some things. I wanted to give that urge to serve. Coming from a family that has a lot of military service, I wanted to serve. I wanted to really help people, protect people, do my part. And so I said, what other things can I do? Maybe I can go into just another branch of law enforcement. I looked into becoming a state trooper. Their application process takes too long, and they hire like once every 3 or 4 years. Had a couple insights with a couple other cities where I knew high-ranking individuals that were like, "Oh, if you put in your application, I'll make sure you get hired in the next class." But I was like, but then that's like leaving my community. Like, if I can't be a Plainfield cop who wasn't hiring at the time, I don't want to be an East Orange cop. I don't want to be a Newark cop. Oddly enough, I ended up being a Newark cop with another agency because Rutgers Police was hiring. So I'm like, well, that allows me to still be a part of the community that I know and love, which is Rutgers University, a branch of my family. And then if I want to go back to grad school, they'll pay for it. So like, this is the super win, right? So I sign up. I tear my ACL in the academy. I don't let them send me home. Long story short, I persevere. And I get through the academy, and they assign me to the Newark division, and I'm rocking and rolling. So the Newark division, anybody who knows anything about Rutgers, New Brunswick is the flagship. That's where I went to undergrad. I'm not, comparing apples and oranges. They're both great institutions of learning because it's all under the Rutgers University umbrella. But when people think across the nation, across the world of Rutgers University, they think of the flagship location in New Brunswick, right across the street from Johnson & Johnson and all these other, large companies and entities. Newark is very different, though. Newark, a lot of the bigger research products come out of Newark, ironically enough. However, Newark is what's called an open campus. There is no portion, except for maybe 2 or 3 buildings, that are cordoned off from the rest of the Central Ward in Newark. So you get the college environment and experience that's intertwined with the largest inner city in the state of New Jersey. So you, with that, gets the problems that come along with the largest inner city in the state of New Jersey. Keeping it raw, robberies, break-ins, theft, sexual assaults, carjackings, stolen cars, you name it, it happened on campus. It gave me an insight to know that you can't think that because you're in this perceived environment that you're isolated away from what life will ultimately put at your feet at some point in your life, right? You're going to have to deal with death. You're going to have to deal with loss of product. You're going to have to deal with a multitude of things. Fast forward, I'm enjoying my career. I'm making money. I'm making overtime. I get to work special events like Colin Powell coming to speak at the university, Dr. Cornel West, multiple rallies that happen in these inner cities, in addition to everything that happens, on a college campus, special events, football events, basketball events back at Rutgers, because even though you're at that division, you still get to do a little bit of everything. Just when I thought I was getting into the groove, I had been a police officer for about 4 or 5 years at that point. I'm at work normal like any other day. I get a call, hey, we got somebody that, did a hit and run, but they hit a pedestrian. A pedestrian's laying in the street. Go get that call. So I'm like, wow, that's unfortunate. Hey, send the ambulance. I'm gonna go take the report. I'll meet the ambulance over there. I get to the corner of University and Bleecker in Newark, New Jersey, and there's no pedestrian. I'm like, did the pedestrian get up and run away? What happened? Like, sometimes that would happen, being honest, because there would be sometimes undocumented individuals in the city of Newark. And if they would get into something, they wouldn't want their name to appear on paper. So they would run away. Even they would be injured, they would run away because they don't want somebody to get their name on paper. The bystander who called it in said, no, it's not a pedestrian, it's a car. I'm like, a car? This is material property. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to take down the license plate of the car that's hit, and we're, boop, 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 put a card on the person's car, and when they want the police report, they'll come and officially file it. They're like, no, it's a hit and run, but the person stopped afterwards. What do you mean it stopped and it's not a hit and run? They're right there in that truck. Oh, wow, okay, cool. They stayed on scene. This makes the report easier because you have one person on scene. You can take the report. I go to walk up to the truck, and the person takes off. So I'm like, okay, something's not right. And I mean, again, this age group is a little younger, but there's a movie called New Jersey Drive, and it's about the underground culture of, unfortunately, stealing cars and then racing them at night until they crash or you get sick of them. And that's the culture. And so the gentleman driving the truck literally took off like New Jersey Drive. Calling it in, everything on his white box truck is coming back to a green Explorer for whatever reason. So I'm thinking it's stolen, false plates, whatever the case may be. Now, this energy, this tension, this anxiety, this adrenaline is pumping through my body. He stops at the top of a hill a couple blocks later, and just stops. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe he realized what he did. He pulls over onto the curb and then starts to drive on the curb. And now my spidey senses are like tingling. Like, what is this person doing? Why is it happening? To be raunchy and raw, I take my firearm out the holster because I don't know what's going to happen. So I'd rather have it out and be able to shoot through my window or shoot out the window than to have someone that might be in a stolen car hop out the back and shoot at me. He pulls onto the curb drive, stops again. Just as I go to put my car in a drive to follow him, you hear the loudest screech I've ever heard in my life. The gentleman driving the truck goes backwards and downhill and crashes into the front of my police car. And if anyone ever seen a police car that has those very sturdy, solid black metal bars on the front, those called crash bars. Those are literally welded into the frame of the police vehicle. It's to prevent someone penetrating the engine compartment and keeping the officer a little bit safe if they get into a head-on collision. When the truck stopped going backwards, it pushed me about 30, 40 feet backwards and downhill, knocked the crash bars off the frame of the vehicle, and was on top of the hood of my police car. So if you know, like the slant of a windshield, the back of his truck was like right here. So like I could see the back of his truck. I can't explain, I can't put to words what I felt at that time. I just knew I was in some stuff. He pulls off my car. I'm thinking he's going to go. At this point, with my energy, I call out. There's a radio frequency called spin. It works on proximity and not individualized, assigned frequencies for departments. So any radio that has a certain capability within a roughly 20-mile radius will hear it. And I just called out calls for help because I thought I was going to die. I called out calls from help. Luckily, someone who I was a friend with, like an actual friend with, that was a police officer with NJIT Police Department. He literally was listening to his radio as he was leaving shift, driving home. He called out, Cam, I'm on my way. I'm coming to get you. He was like in his personal vehicle. Multiple officers pulled up on scene. Adrenaline's dumping. I get out my car. I do put a firearm to the individual's head. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's all get through it. He's locked up. He's trying to plead for, I didn't mean to do it, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, you can smell the odor of an alcoholic beverage emanating from his body. He's clearly intoxicated. I go to my car to get paperwork. When I go to do the paperwork, I collapse. I collapse in my car. All adrenaline dumped from my body. I had no idea what was going on. So I wanted to give you that very true statement as I leave what I did as a law enforcement officer. Long story short, that caused me to retire. I tried to fight back to get back on the job for about a year and a half, and then eventually the state made me retire because they couldn't find a doctor that would allow me to go back to the streets and do the duties of a police officer in my condition. I ruptured a ligament. So you have a ligament in your neck on both sides of your neck. Thank you. It's called the ape of a V, right? So it literally is attached to the right side of your skull and the left side of your skull. And it's like a tension rod that pulls it down and keeps your skull attached to the top of your spinal cord. I ruptured the right side of my alar ligament, like completely. Like it was, if you look at my MRIs, my alar ligament was on my right side, was flapping around like this, trying to touch each other, and it didn't touch. So that created significant instability in my neck. And I also ruptured, you could think of, except for spinal fusion, because there's no turning around from spinal fusion. And you can die in that surgery. It's like a 9-hour surgery, and it's not something to play with if you don't absolutely have to. And so I prayed. I don't know who's praying people on this line. I prayed, and I just looked for something else to do. I was in a very bad space for a very long time. Mentally, emotionally, physically, I had got up the highest I had ever got. I think, like currently right now, I weigh like 228, 235. I fluctuate. And one of my coworkers is laughing at me because he says I weigh 240. So I fluctuate with my weight. I'm about 235 right now. I have gotten as high as 289, and I'm only 5'10". So to be 289 at 5'10", never really being it's not like I'm a defensive tackle or something. I'm an athletic guy. Like 289 is a high weight. I sat home for a very long time in a very deep, dark, emotional place. I'll just leave it at that. It was a very bad place for me to be in. I didn't think I would ever get out of that place. The state of New Jersey made my retirement official on June 1st of 2012. It was bittersweet because they sent me a nice check for my retirement. That'll be tax-free for the rest of my life. But I had to give up what I wanted to do as a career to get it. So now I thrust into trying to do, at that time, just spending time with my kids. Well, at the time, my second child is born at this point. So I'm just trying to be there for them. But I know, and it's somewhat competitive. I see my brother at that point. He's now on a master's degree. He's working. I'm like, damn, my little brother's got a master's degree, and I got to do something more. Almost overnight, this was like July or August of 2004, because I was still in this very bad place. I said, I got to go back to school. What do I got to do? Should I get this? Should I get that? I'll get an MPA, right? Because Masters of Public Administration, I love the public sector of employment. I love working with people. Like if for those that don't know what an MPA is, it's very similar to an MBA, like you see sometimes. Whereas an MBA is someone who's going to work with numbers, statistics. They're going to work with finance. They're going to work with, hardcore structures of agencies. Whereas MPAs generally work with all the same things, but on the humanistic side, right? Personable as opposed to rigid and inanimate, right? So I applied to FDU just because I saw FDU would waive any graduate entrance exam requirements, and I could get started right away because they had trimesters and they were rotating. So like if you applied in December, if you did everything you're supposed to do, you might be in class in September. I literally thrusted myself into a 39 credit master's program, and I completed it in 11 months. I literally did 39 graduate credits in 11 months. And then I'm like, okay, this is 2004. Now it's 2005. I can graduate. But now what do I do? I had been applying to jobs. I wasn't getting jobs. But I remember how much command structure functions that from law enforcement, military, could be translated. And you could still very much be a part of safety and security of people without being a law enforcement officer. So as soon as I finished my 11 months, I finished my Master's in Public Administration. I stayed at FDU, and I got 3 more graduate level certificates. So from the law enforcement perspective, I got a graduate level certificate in international terroristic studies, because at that time that was still very much a hot button topic, because we were fighting allegedly. I don't want to get into conspiracy theorists, but the United States was allegedly fighting still Al Qaeda at that time, and just there was so much terrorists. I wanted to learn more about that, so I got a graduate certificate in terrorism and international studies. Got a graduate certificate in school safety and security administration, and I got a graduate certificate in emergency management operations administration. I just knew this young black kid from Plainfield who had survived the adversities of law enforcement to make it somewhat healthy and safe on the other side, who now brings a wealth of certificated degrees in I kept pushing. There were times where I would go to jobs and watch Young Square Mall, and they literally said to me, "Yeah, no, here, and you'll take somebody else's job." So, what I've learned over my adversities is you have to put yourself in something where your mind is working to a goal, because if you don't, you'll go crazy. Humans are not meant to be in solitude or docile. You have to give something, even more than your body. You have to give something, or you will go in local politics. And so, unity person, there's another thing to know: the art and science of politics. Different things. I get raised here. They want somebody who's not even born to get an opportunity. Keep you just in the second and third ward voters. It lets the whole city who knows and loves you support you. I run for the Board of Education, and I slaughter everybody. Like, I literally destroyed. Like, I had a significant amount more votes than even my running mate. January 3rd, 2018. Leave that there because this is Plainfield Public Schools. It was nothing what I thought it was going to be. I've learned to evolve in that role. But going back to what I do for a living, I decide, okay, how can I bring my knowledge that I'm gaining as a board member, but what I already has as a person who cares about safety and everything, to monetize it, right? We all got bills to pay. When you're an adult, you have to pay your bills. So I network. I just say, what can I do? What can I do? Can I go to a conference? Can I come? I'll come work for free for 2 weeks. I'll give you an evaluation mindset. Like, I was willing to do all these outside the box things to gain employment. Eventually, someone who was in a position not to hire me, but to educate me a little bit, was like, start a consulting company. For whatever reason, society loves letters, right? You might not know anything, but if you create a good sound, the name of a company that sounds good, and put LLC behind it, all of a sudden they're like, you must know what you're talking about. Society loves letters, right? Behind Mr. Cox's name, he has EDD. Like, they love letters. Behind my name, I have MPA, and now I have SSS. They love it. They love letters. I don't know what it is about society and letters, but they do. CIA, FBI, it's just so many letter things they love. So I create this company, name my company 2012 specifically, with streamlining their and streamlines when it comes to safety and security, education administrators, pretty much getting people to agencies to operate more efficiently, whether that be on special education, whether they're buildings, whether that be school safety and security, total evaluation and revamping. This is my idea. I created that company in October of 2018. I had a contract for that company in January of 2019. So 2-3 months later, I get a contract. Nice little contract. Put a couple dollars in my pocket. I go to work for the district that I currently work for as a consultant. And my final recommendation was, you need somebody who is at least has subject matter expertise. Maybe they may not be the expert, but has some level of subject matter expertise in this field, or otherwise you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to being sued. The superintendent literally told me, so you believe I need to hire somebody, right? Yeah. So I want to hire you. No. I'm going to work for my consulting company. I trust your subject matter expertise. You've shown me our vulnerabilities, and we're able to now correct them before we got sued. And you've only been here for a few months. Imagine if you were here full time, you could help my agency insulate themselves better from lawsuits and other things. I want to hire you. I go back and forth on it because there's some flexibility and freedom in being a consultant. You are your boss. If you don't feel like doing something, you don't do it. You make just enough money to pay your bills, and you can still have all your freedoms that I enjoyed in being a retired law enforcement officer. But the regular check every 2 weeks is not the same me over 4 months and then not make anything for the rest of the year. So I weighed that, right? Having 2 kids and a wife, I'm like, I'm gonna take this full-time position. I still operate my consulting company and still get some dollars associated with what my company can offer any agency. But since then, I was hired as the director of school safety and truancy services for the Teaneck Public Schools. As you can see, Teaneck Athletics. I'm here. I'm in our gym. So statutorily, by state NJDOE regulations and law, there was a law created in 2015 that created what's called the School Safety Specialist Academy. It mandated that every school district in the state had to have an administrator. It didn't have to be an ex-law enforcement officer, but some administrator in district has to be responsible for the overall safety and security of the entire district. Most districts have no idea about this. I would say right now probably 30% of them are out of compliance. But when they do hire them, what do they usually do is, especially smaller districts that can't afford to hire somebody who just specializes in that, they go, you're the new vice principal. Guess what? You're our school safety specialist. Go to this week-long training, learn, tell us what we need to do, and you have to be responsible for it. That's cool to be in compliance, but that's terrible if you really care about the school safety and security of your learning environment, because that person just doesn't have, they're an educational leader. They don't have the subject matter expertise about school safety and security. So I am that guy for Teaneck. Currently, I'm in charge of the safety and overall safety and security for roughly 4,100 students, 650 or so staff members, and any visitors that come to any campus function in and throughout the school year. I oversee a staff of 13. Right now we have 7 buildings, and our admin building is renting space at a corporate location here in Teaneck. We're building a new admin building that I will then become responsible for. That should be ready by September. We're also building a new elementary school, so that will add another school. So we'll have 8. We have 7 schools. Admin is 8. We'll have 9 total buildings, roughly September and October. But we don't know what September, October will look like because distant learning may continue. And that's where the evolution of my position has come, because it went from just physical school safety and security to very much overall safety responses to every level of emergency, whether that be response to the pandemic, whether it be physical school safety and security. In collaboration with our director of technology, I also oversee all integration of school safety technology, our video cameras, our surveillance cameras, our card access door controls, our lockdown mechanisms, because there's another law called Alyssa's Law that has to be implemented by November 1st of this year. Alyssa's Law is named after a young lady who died in Parkland, Florida school shooting. Her and her family were originally from New Jersey. So in response to her death, the legislators of New Jersey created Alyssa Law that states that every school building has to have a one button, have some kind of instantaneous device that immediately notifies law enforcement event that they need to respond to. So the dumb cop had to also now become educated in all things technology security, which is very much a technical, like I'm not a technical guy. I'm not a math and science guy, but I've had to evolve because my position literally overnight, I started working here July 1st, and overnight my position evolved. Before the shutdown, every building has to have someone who's all school safety drills. So we do roundtables once a month with all those people from each building. Usually it's the principal, sometimes the vice principal, or maybe it'd be like a really senior teacher if it's a smaller school. They all kind of have to report to me. They don't report to me when it comes to education, but all things school safety security. Now we joke because the person who I was saying I'm 240 is the high school principal of Teaneck High School. He's responsible for the education environment of 1,300 students and 150 some odd staff members. So everything, he's responsible for everything in the building until it comes down to school safety and security. It's kind of like we switch roles for 30 seconds, and as soon as I get the school safety and security thing, he goes, switch roles again. Now I'm the building principal, right? I'm responsible for everything. So it's like a funny, funny joking interrelationship that we have. During this COVID, I've actually been recognized by the state of New Jersey, the Department of Education, and the Office of school emergencies and preparedness, as having created one of the best practice environments for delivering lunches and work packets and Chromebooks and things like that in a non-contact social distance environment. They recognized me. I think that was like April or May, for the design I came up with here in Teaneck. And I love what I do. I commute very far. I don't know if you guys know where Teaneck is. Like no traffic. It's like a 45, 50-minute drive for me. There has been times where it's taken me an hour and 45 minutes to get to work. There has been times last summer where it took me 2 hours and 45 minutes to get home, because you couple, summer shore travel traffic with people going to and from the city. And Teaneck is literally one city over from the George Washington Bridge. And it's just, we have, some of the complications with my job. We have to plan for things that may happen, because literally alongside our high school, on one side of our high school, we have Route 4. It's a major New Jersey thoroughfare that leads right to the city. I don't want to go too much, because I can talk. Anybody who knows me knows I will take this conversation and branch it off to something else. That is very much what I do as the head of security and safety and truancy services for Teaneck, as their statutory school safety specialist for the district. Thank you for having me. I welcome any level of question. I'll answer probably anything except for how much money I make. I'll give you an idea, but I won't tell you how much money I make, only because I want to make sure I borderline those. I am the school board president, so I don't want to. And this is the principal of Teaneck High School.
If y'all cash out me some money,
So that's the high school principal for Teaneck. We're having kind of like a administrators meeting right now, because we got to get ready to close out the school year. Today is the last day for teachers, so there's some high school functions he needs to do, that needs to collaborate with me for some safety functions. The principal of one of our middle schools is here, so it's intertwined, right? In the learning environment, we always have these interconnected elements that all make up a very complex and comprehensive learning environment. So without taking up too much of your time, I'm appreciative of everybody who was able to log in on this last day. And like I said, I take any questions.
Yeah, so I have one question in mind, but before the kids completely go off, I want to hear from Angelina and Brian. Do you guys either have a question or something that Mr. Cox said that resonated with you? You guys still alive on this ship? Angelina, maybe you go first.
Yeah. I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
I really admired your brother when he said even after him turning his ligament and stuff, and he saw you taking classes and having your master's degree, he still wanted to do something because he wanted to get out of the dark place and stuff.
Yeah. What's crazy is I didn't even know that. That's the first time I heard that. I knew maybe the doctor, but the masters, I never knew that before. I never knew that I was a motivating thing. But so thank you for sharing that, and it was cool to get this perspective from my brother. Brian?
No, I don't really have anything.
Okay. Mr. Lewis, questions, comments?
Yeah, first, Mr. Cox, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to hear and get to know you a little bit. For the students who've been with us all year, and for those that joined us, some continuing themes, important lessons that we can learn vicariously through Mr. Cox. I loved how you pushed through adversity, because we all face it in our life. Your importance of goal setting. I don't want the kids to miss out on that for your mind and so forth, to drive you to continually evolve, which is something that you seem to have mastered, is your ability to kind of recreate yourself when you need to, and so forth, especially when you face adversity. Networking, obviously, it's another great tool that Mr. Cox definitely showed. Being ambitious and something I talk to the kids head on the swivel. That perceived bubble of the school environment, or when you go to college, or even feeling when you're walking down a street or something like that with your headphones on. You always got to know your situation.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time. It's appreciated.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback, guys, on something I wanted to bring to light that I mean, I know this because I know Mr. Cox personally as my brother. I think one thing.
One second, sir. Somebody wants to say hello to
you. Okay.
Beloved, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Williams?
How are you, sir?
That's my 6th grade social studies teacher right there. That's crazy.
Indeed, that Mr. Williams did, I think.
What's going on, man?
So everybody, Mr. Williams' first class was at Maxon Middle School. Mr. Cox, your teacher, Mr. Cox, Tristan, I call him obviously, and his friends were his first group of students.
Yeah.
They took this picture. It's a dope picture. Mr. Williams is now the principal of one of our middle schools here in Teaneck, and they recreated the picture after Mr. Cox's dissertation defense a couple months ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's it's like some crazy osmosis life, like.
Listen, I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you.
We all are.
Thank you so much, man.
You doing what you said you was gonna do. So you planned your work and you worked your plan.
Trying. Thank you, brother.
Now listen, I mean, a legacy. That's it.
Try and be a good example, man. Let these kids know, like you could be from Plainfield, you could be, you could be single parent, you could be all of those things.
Don't matter,
still, right? Nah, you can still do whatever you want in this life. I like to say that. I like to say that I could do everything that somebody else has done or wants to do or things like that. You know what I mean? I could do anything just like our non-African American counterparts. I can do anything they do or have in their life. I could do the same thing. You know what I mean? And that's always been one of my driving forces. Is like I'm not going to be excluded from the party. My mom said you're going to dance in every circle. If you got to put a different mask on, you do this, you do that. You're going to be able to dance in that circle. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I love Joe Rogan, his podcast. One of the reasons why I switched to having like guests is like people tell their life story and it's so many gems. My brother's life story has been perseverance. Like somebody knock you down, get back up, man. It may be sloppy, it may be ugly, but you get back up, you pull your bootstraps up, as our mother says, and you keep on trucking, even when you seem like you have nothing left. Because it happens to all of us in some way, shape, or form. We feel down and out. You got to get back up, man. So I just, I wanted to share, kind of like do this format because it's new, like learning and all this stuff. I'm like, what can I do that's going to stand out? Yeah, we still get our history in, but like, what can I do that's going to be memorable for my kids, and meaningful through these crazy times? So thank you for everything you did for me, being an example. And thank you to my older brother for always being the shining light in my life and always looking out and promoting me. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm like Deion Sanders and like his agent. Like my brother, the way he promotes me, I'm like, dang, do I even deserve this? You know what I mean?
But, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, I'm blessed. Yeah. And
good luck, man.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
I'll see you soon, man.
Yes, sir.
So guys, we let's wrap this up. Mr. Lewis probably wants to say some final words. I know we have kids from other classes, but my 2 kids, I just want to say, not even going to be long-winded. I'm going to say I'll always be a resource, even if I'm not at Plainfield High School. When you guys graduate or whatever, if I go to another school, you reach out to me. I'll always be a resource, whether that's a recommendation letter or you need somebody just to talk to. Because sometimes in life, you just need somebody to talk to. Hit me up, find me. If I am there, come to my class, 236. Use me as a resource. Mr. Lewis, you got any final parting words before we end the call?
I do the same exact thing. Just thanks again to your brother for sharing his story. Thanks for the year we spent working together. I think our little experiment was a success, and I'm really proud to have had the opportunity to work with all the students this year in a rather unique way. Where we shared and really built a really good bond. And like Dr. Cox, you can always hit me up, whether here, there, or